Hey there, welcome back to the JeepSolid Garage. Today we're going to continue with the stroker build, see how far into this we can get. In our last episode, we got the engine installed, bolted up to the transmission, nice and smooth. Found one little gap there that kind of freaked me out for a little bit, but found out that gap is normal, right underneath where that rear main oil seal is. It's okay. Got the engine mounts in. Today we're gonna get the water pump, thermostat housing, work on some grounds, a lot of other stuff. Let's see how far we can get. On my last engine build, when I went to start it, it would not start. I had an issue with starting. It turned out to be the ground. So today, I'm taking particular attention to cleaning up grounds before I start bolting things together. Now this is where all that work of labeling everything comes into great use, because I know where all this goes. So got a ground here, got a ground here. Both of those go on the base of the dipstick here. We'll get those bolted up real quick and move on. All right, that looks great. Now I want to move on to the water pump and thermostat. I've got those here, my water pump, thermostat, those will be going in. Got my new gaskets here. These are from Engine Tech. Engine Tech sent me this gasket kit, which is a complete gasket kit. Had the head gasket in it, all the seals I need, manifold gaskets, rear main oil seal, just everything I needed. I've obviously used a lot of it out of it already, along with their complete master rebuild kit, which included pistons, rings, the expansion plugs, freeze plugs, whatever you want to call them, everything I needed for my engine build. Check out Engine Tech's website listed in the description below. Right, got my gasket maker ready. My gasket here. I always use gasket maker and one of these paper gaskets as well. It's just what I've always read and done. It's worked well for me. Got my water pump here. Gasket is gonna fit on right there. So I want to get this installed and just finger tight so that a little bit of RTV is squeezing out. Then I'll let it cure for about an hour, maybe a little bit longer because it's pretty cold in the garage right now. Come back and then tighten it down, torque it down to factory specs. Yeah, in one of my videos fairly recently, somebody commented, basically said, you're not supposed to use RTV and a paper gasket as well. I'm not sure where they read that or if that's what everybody else does, but what I've always read, what my service manuals say is, yeah, RTV on both sides of the paper gasket. Let me know what you guys do. I'm curious and I'm open to changing my practice. I'm not absolutely stuck in my ways. Try not to get carried away with RTV here. All right, looks good. Just a little bit of RTV squeezing out. Now we can move on to the thermostat. And here I'm using a high flow thermostat, 195 degrees, just to get a little extra flow through there so I have good cooling of my stroker. This one has a little bleeder valve at the top. Make sure that's at the top when you're installing it. What's up there, Tootsie? See? All right, we gotta let that dry, cure for a good hour, then we'll come back and torque it down. And once it's torqued down, you gotta really let it dry for a good 24 hours before you start putting coolant in it, because I've done that before where I put coolant in too early and it just leaked right out. It just chewed right through the RTV. So we're gonna let that dry real good. Hey, it's another day on the stroker build. I got some more parts ready to go. Cleaned up a whole bunch of other things. What do we got down here? Radiator, intake manifold, exhaust manifold, alternator, brackets, fan, a whole bunch of things. Let's start by dropping the starter in place. The starter is just two little 15mm bolts and some wiring. All right, starter is in. I'm just kind of working my way around from the passenger side of the engine around. So we got the starter done. This goes to the oil pressure sensor there. Boy, I am not disappointed in all the labeling I did. This is the distributor timing. Let's get that oil filter on and the oil pressure sensor. All right, let's get our oil filter on here and we'll get the little adapter for our oil pressure sensor. You know, this is really the part of the job that I enjoy, like the mechanical aspects of it, putting things together, tinkering with it, dropping transfer case, all that kind of stuff. Eventually I'm gonna sand this, take everything off, sand it, paint it. I don't enjoy that, but I don't know, it'll look good when it's done. And here I'm using a adaptable wrench I got a few years ago. And every once in a while, when I have an odd shaped thing, something that I don't have a socket that fits, this is too big for, or too long for my deep set socket to fit on. This weird little wrench comes in super handy on stuff like this. It's just an adjustable, I think I picked it up at like a pawn shop or something. But it works fairly well. Just clamps down on it. Adjustable to different sizes. Sometimes strange tools come in handy. And I guess I should clarify me complaining about having to paint this. It's just the sanding, but nobody likes the sanding. Taking all the parts off, it's really not that bad. The actual painting, that's not so bad either. It's a bit messy and a big project. It's just sanding. Nobody likes sanding. So I'm gonna leave the distributor for later because I'm going to use that spot to prime the oil pump right before I start it. So we're going to leave that for now. Let's hop on over to the other side and do the exhaust and intake manifold, get all this taken care of. Now, one issue I have here is the ground, the firewall here. It goes on this back head bolt, but with these new head bolts that I have, there is not a place to mount this ground strap. So what I think I'm gonna have to do is, I think I'm actually gonna put it on one of the manifold bolts, on one of those top manifold bolts behind the bolt. I think that'll be okay. I think we'll have enough metal to metal contact. Should be a good enough ground. If I have any issues, starting issues or whatever, I'll double check it, move the ground somewhere else, but I think that's what I gotta do. The other option, I've got this temperature sensor here, but this is brass, but it's gonna make good contact with the cast iron head. I don't know if brass is a good conductor, a good ground, but it'll be hitting the cast iron. With the head bolt here, or the manifold bolt, the manifold's aluminum. I don't think aluminum's a great ground either, but it's going into the cast iron through a nice steel bolt, so I think that'll be okay. I think I'm gonna go that route as opposed to the brass sensor up here. Now, one tip with getting your exhaust manifold on and these bottom manifold bolts, so these bottom 4 bolts, go ahead and put them all in place and have these washers pulled back all the way, but have them just barely threaded in, just like one full turn should be enough, leaving enough room for you to slip the intake manifold over the top. That way you're not fishing around trying to find out where these are at. Have those bottom 4 in place already. And this part can be a little bit tricky because you've also got a stud on each side that you have to slip the manifold over, slide it on while catching all of these washers. So let's give it a shot here. And I'd also say if it's not going on smoothly, it'll slip on nicely. If it's not slipping on nice, don't try to force it. You can, you know, this is aluminum, you can bend it. Those little tabs that go on the spots where the dowels are, you can bend those. So just be careful. I did tap on it with a rubber mallet there, the handle of the rubber mallet a little bit just to get it pop into place, but we're on nice and square. We should be good to bolt it down. What do you say we hook up the alternator bracket real quick, get the alternator on there. And the fuel lines just snap back on. And we'll drop the power steering pump bracket back in place. Well, in that last scene, my microphone died, so the audio might sound a little bit different. I dropped the radiator in, I'm gonna hook the hoses up. Right now I'm hooking up the fan and the fan shroud. I'm gonna do all the wiring of this off camera. I'm just hooking all that back up where I took it off. I'll catch you guys in the next video right up here. Have a good day.